Okay, let's dive right into Revelation chapter 14. Um, this chapter, it really unfolds as a series of, well, powerful visions.
It does. It shifts focus quite dramatically, starting with the scene of redemption and then moving into some pretty intense pronouncements.
Yeah, judgment. It's packed with vivid imagery and messages aimed, right at those on earth.
It's definitely a pivotal chapter. It lays out major events, key characters in the whole Revelation narrative. So our goal here really is just to walk through these visions, try to understand what the text is actually describing.
And pull out the core ideas.
Exactly, what's being presented.
Okay, let's start with that opening scene then. It's the Lamb standing on Mount Zion.
Yes, Mount Zion. And he's not alone. There's this very specific group with him, 144,000 people.
Right, the 144,000. And the text tells us something specific about them, doesn't it? How they're identified.
It does. It mentions a mark they have, the Lamb's name and his father's name, written right there on their foreheads.
So it's about belonging. Their identity is tied directly to God and the Lamb.
Precisely. It signifies who they are, who they belong to.
And the whole atmosphere around them sounds, well, incredible. It talks about a sound from heaven,
Like rushing waters, it says. Loud thunder, too.
but then also like music, harpists playing.
Yeah, it's this amazing blend, isn't it? Overwhelming power, like the thunder and water, but also this beautiful music from the harps. Creates a really unique sensory picture.
And these 144,000, they're doing something specific in this scene, singing.
Singing a new song, yes.
Wow.
Before the throne, the living creatures, the elders, and the text is very clear. Only they could learn this particular song.
Why only them?
Because it says they were redeemed from the earth.
Redeemed from the earth.
Yeah.
Okay. And the chapter gives more details, more characteristics about this group. What else does it highlight?
Well, it lists several things. It says they did not defile themselves with women, for they kept themselves pure.
Okay. Purity. What else?
They're described as those who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. Total devotion, it seems.
And purchased.
Purchased from among men and offered as first fruits to God and the Lamb. That's a significant description.
First fruits. And it adds something about truthfulness, right?
Yes. No lie was found in their mouths. They are blameless. So you get this picture. Purity, devotion, truthfulness, being redeemed, dedicated, set apart.
So it's interesting. Why start the chapter with this blameless, redeemed group, especially when you know it's heading towards warnings and judgment?
That's a great point. I think placing them here, right at the start, marked with these divine names, singing this unique song, it sets them up as a stark contrast.
A contrast to what comes later.
Exactly. A contrast to the forces and people described later who are marked by the beast, who face God's wrath. It establishes this benchmark, here's faithfulness, here's redemption, before diving into the consequences of choosing a different path.
And that first fruits idea.
It suggests they're like a special, dedicated offering, maybe representing a specific group within the larger body of the redeemed. It's debated, but the text emphasizes their unique status here.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like showing the destination for faithfulness before mapping out the other roads and their outcomes.
Right. And then, just like you said, the scene shifts dramatically. We move from Mount Zion to, like, the whole world stage.
With angels flying, carrying messages.
The first angel, yeah, flying right in midair, carrying the eternal gospel. And this is key. It says, this gospel is for those who live on the earth, to every nation, tribe, language, and people.
So completely universal. No one's left out of hearing this. And the message itself, what's the core of it?
It's delivered in a loud voice, a call to action, really, and reverence. Fear God and give him glory.
Why now?
Because the hour of his judgment has come. So the call to fear God and give glory is directly linked to this impending judgment. It's urgent.
And it doesn't stop there. There's a call to worship, too.
A very specific one, yes. Worship him who made. And then it lists creation, the heavens, the earth, the sea, and the springs of water.
So worship the Creator. Why do you think the text emphasizes the Creator aspect right here, especially knowing what's coming next?
Well, like we were saying about contrast, it feels like it's drawing a very clear line, doesn't it? This is the legitimate object of worship, the one who made everything. It defines true allegiance right before.
Right before the counterfeit is presented.
Precisely. It establishes the standard, and then, bang, the second angel follows.
With a much shorter, starker message.
Fallen. Fallen is Babylon the Great.
And does it say why Babylon has fallen?
It does. It says she made all the nations drink the maddening wine of her adulteries.
That's powerful imagery. Babylon, often seen as symbolizing corrupt world systems, right? Idolatry, power against God.
Exactly. And here she's portrayed as intoxicating the nations. leading them into, well, spiritual unfaithfulness, corruption, and that leads directly to her fall.
That maddening wine really drives home the idea of deception and corruption. Okay, then the third angel. This one feels even more severe.
Oh, definitely. Also in a loud voice, this angel issues a direct warning. Don't worship the beast or his image. Don't receive his mark, whether on the forehead or hand.
This is the direct counterpoint to the first angel's call.
Absolutely. Worship the creator or worship the beast and his system. It presents a clear choice. The beast, his image, his market, it all represents this alternative allegiance tied to earthly power that opposes God.
And the consequences described for choosing the beast, they're incredibly severe.
The language is intense. Anyone who makes that choice will drink of the wine of God's fury. And it adds, this wine has been poured full strength into the cup of his wrath.
Full strength, no dilution.
No mercy mixed in, it seems. Just raw, undiluted, divine consequence.
Wow. And torment itself is described graphically.
Yes, they will be tormented with burning sulfur. And notice where this happens. In the presence of the holy angels and of the Lamb.
Right, in their presence. That adds another layer.
It does. It's not hidden away. And the duration is absolute. And the smoke of their torment rises forever and ever. No relief.
It says no rest day or night for those who worship the beast or take his mark.
An unending, conscious consequence, witnessed by the very divine figures they rejected. It directly links eternal suffering to that choice of allegiance. It's heavy stuff.
Definitely heavy. So after these incredibly weighty warnings about siding with the beast, the chapter seems to pivot again, back to the faithful.
It does. Immediately, it says, this calls for patient endurance on the part of the saints. It frames endurance not just as a good quality, but as an absolute necessity given the pressures just described.
And it tells us who these saints are in this specific context.
Yes, it defines them right there. Those who obey God's commandments and remain faithful to Jesus. Their endurance isn't passive, it's rooted in active obedience and loyalty to Jesus.
Which stands in direct contrast to those who gave in to the beast's system.
Exactly. And then, as if to underscore the hope for these enduring saints, we hear this voice from heaven.
With a powerful statement about those who stay faithful, even if it costs them their lives.
A voice tells John the writer, right, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. It's this direct divine confirmation. Comfort, really.
And the Spirit confirms it too, giving a reason for the blessing.
The Spirit affirms, yes, adding, they will rest from their labor, for their deeds will follow them.
So death isn't the end of their story.
Not at all. For the faithful, it's presented as a transition to rest. And their actions, their faithfulness, have lasting value. It's this promise of peace and meaning, standing in stark contrast to the no rest promised to the others.
Okay, so let's move towards the end of the chapter. We get these final major visions. They feel like the culmination, like a harvest.
That's the exact imagery used. First, a white cloud appears, and seated on it is one like a son of man.
With a crown and a sickle.
A gold crown and a sharp sickle, yes. Clearly depicting authority and readiness for action.
And then an angel signals that it's time.
An angel comes from the temple, calling out loudly to the one on the cloud, take your sickle and reap.
Why?
Because the time to reap has come, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. The earth is ready for gathering.
And the reaping happens quickly.
The text just says, so he who was seated on the cloud swung his sickle over the earth, and the earth is harvested. It's decisive. That's the first part of this final judgment picture.
But the harvest imagery doesn't stop there. It shifts, doesn't it? From grain to grapes.
It does. And the tone shifts, too, becoming much more explicitly about wrath.
How does that unfold?
Another angel comes from the temple, also holding a sharp sickle. Then a third angel appears, one described as having charge of the fire from the altar.
The angel associated with fire calls out.
Yes, calls out to the angel with the sickle.
With a different command this time.
Right, this time it's, take your sharp sickle and gather the clusters of grapes from the earth's vine, because its grapes are ripe. The focus is now on grapes, specifically from the earth's vine.
And this leads to that really intense winepress imagery.
The angel gathers these grapes and throws them into the great winepress of God's wrath. They're trampled, it says, outside the city. It's a picture of judgment being executed.
And the description of the result, the blood, it's incredibly vivid. It gives a sense of huge scale.
It's a shocking image. The text says blood flowed out from the winepress, rising as high as the horses' bridles for a distance of 1,600 stadia.
1,600 stadia. How far is that?
A stadion was, what, about 600 feet? 185 meters?
Mm-hmm.
So 1,600 stadia is roughly maybe 185 miles, nearly 300 kilometers.
Wow, that's a huge distance. And the blood is that deep,
Mm.
up to a horse's bridle.
That's the picture it paints. Immense, widespread, deep consequences flowing from this act of divine wrath. It seems like maybe there are two harvests here. The first one, perhaps gathering the righteous, like the first fruits we saw earlier.
And the second?
The second, the grape harvest and the winepress, seems focused squarely on the judgment of the wicked, symbolized by these ripe grapes ready for trampling.
Wow, okay, so this chapter really covers a massive amount of ground. You go from the redeemed singing on Mount Zion,
Mm.
through these global messages, the gospel call, the warnings against false worship, then the call for the saints to endure, promises for those who die faithful.
Right.
And it all culminates in these incredibly powerful, almost overwhelming images of harvest and the winepress of wrath, final judgment.
It really does. It pulls together these core themes. Who do you give allegiance to? Who do you worship? Can you persevere? And what are the ultimate divine consequences? Revelation lays it all out here with imagery designed to be unforgettable.
It definitely achieves that. The imagery is stark. So, thinking about everything we've just walked through, those explicit calls to worship the Creator, the really severe warnings about the beast and his mark, and then these contrasting outcomes, the 144,000 versus the winepress.
Yeah.
How does this chapter challenge your thinking personally about the nature of allegiance and what the text presents as its ultimate, unavoidable consequences?